Because insecurity is a bottomless pit that can never be filled from the outside. Okay, in this video, I'm going to speak to you about 3 things I learned from observing 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚑 about validation and insecurity. Let's discuss. So 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚑 is a well-known singer-songwriter. I saw him this weekend as an opener for the new edition Legacy Tour in St. Louis. And prior to the concert, I really didn't have any inklings of Keith or any rumors about anything going on with Keith. So I was just going in blind, and these are my perceptions of him. If I'm being honest, I was a bit taken aback. He seemed really down, his demeanor seemed really low, and he was venting in between all of his songs, and all of his venting was very negative. And so despite his success and status as an undisputed legend, in my opinion, Keith came off very insecure and in need of validation. Unlike all the other artists on that stage, like New Edition, Johnny Gill, Bobby Brown, Tank, Guy, all of it, Keith kept mentioning perceptions and rumors about him that had been going around, most of which I didn't even know. Apparently, people had a rumor that he had been drinking or drunk on stage, and in response to that, he had somebody bring him out a glass of Hennessy and drink on stage, which what is problematic? What, Keith? He shared with us that apparently somebody said that he didn't sound like the record anymore, which was not even true. The man sounded just like he used to. Keith shared with us comments about money of his. Keith shared with us comments about his style of singing and the fact that people say that he's like whiny and beggy. Y'all, Keith would sing a song, vent to us about a perceived external thing that was being said about him, sing another song, vent to us, sing, vent, and so on. Listen, I don't know Keith. This is just my perception, you guys. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm just a rando chick on the internet. But I did pick up 3 things that I want to consider on my own healing journey, and you can consider them as well. So let's do it. The first thing I realized, you guys, is insecurity is a unfillable bottomless pit. Okay, 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚑 is an undeniable legend. Born in 1961, this singer-songwriter and producer cranked out seminal hits of the 90s R&B and New Jack Swing scene. Make It Last Forever, I Wanna, Nobody, Make You Sweat, the list goes on and on. There is no human being on this planet in their right mind that would not say that 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚑 is an icon when discussing 90s R&B, right? Right. Yet, this weekend, 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚑 didn't seem to know that. It honestly broke my heart. He seemed to be insecure and not sure of himself in between his impeccable execution of his songs. So as Keith shared his heart with us, you guys, I sat there and I started to really listen in between the lines to what he was saying. And Keith is perpetually worried about what other people think about him. I'm not gonna lie, I was shocked. I mean, the man is 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚑, but he just kept telling us of how this group said this and that group said that, and this person perceived this about him and that person perceived that about him. And when it was all said and done, 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚑 seemed unsure that he was 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚑. And y'all, the man is Keith mother effing Sweat. What? He's a legend. His singing was amazing. I heard absolutely no deterioration from the old songs that we used to hear to the live singing on the stage in 2023. And so here's what I learned from that. Knowing who you are and walking in that truth has value. And you can walk through your whole entire life not seemingly knowing who you are and therefore get entirely different results. When I contrast Keith to the other performers that night, it changed how you show up in the room. And if I'm being honest, I am going to work on knowing and embodying who I am on my journey and showing up in the space that way, because ultimately that's how you are perceived by the majority. And I am going to dim and lower the voices of the minority and not put so much focus on them, because insecurity is a bottomless pit that can never be filled from the outside. You can end up begging people to be seen and heard and valued, and honestly, only internal work can fill that gap. Okay, the second thing I learned from watching Keith is the need for validation can be addictive and futile. When you achieve positive feedback from others, it can feel incredible. It can feel really good. However, if you don't do your work to have a settled understanding and knowing about who you are and bring that into the space with you, you can become fueled and constantly seeking and addicted to external validation. I spoke to a family member who told me that they saw 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚑𝚑 live 20 years ago, and they had the exact same experience. He was venting in between every song, and he seemed insecure and like he needed validation. And think about that, you guys. Wow, 20 years ago, and she had the same experience and vibe that I did? Sarah Jakes Roberts said it best. If the challenge to heal and become whole has become issued by people other than yourself, then your journey will always require permission before progression. Don't allow your destiny to be determined by a democracy. Your immediate circle may not know how to coach you through your heartbreak, or even worse, they may need the company of your misery to distract them from their own need for healing. Avoid the temptation to make your healing contingent on approval and validation from others. What I learned from this is I can never be truly content, joyous, and happy unless I learn how to validate my daggone self. Because what I'm not about to do is be standing up on a stage begging people in a stadium to validate me. When I'm a whole entire legend. I have to walk into the space conscious and confident of my own self-being and accomplishments, regardless of what others think. The contrast of all the other performers on that stage last weekend was glaring. Nobody else brought that energy. They just went out there, they were them, they peeled the paint off the walls. That's it. Nothing else needed to be said. That's the kind of energy I want to bring into my life. And the final thing I learned from Keith Sweat this weekend is I have to work on myself and continue my own healing journey. It is imperative. It is non-negotiable. It is the only way that you and I can overcome insecurities and an incessant, persistent, bottomless need for validation. And it's not enough to just recognize that you have an issue. You actually have to put in some work. Work. Yeah, like I said, when I went to that concert, I had zero perception of Keith Sweat and what he was going through in his current life. And I was so saddened by learning about the rumors that he was drinking from him. And then the lady sitting next to me told me what he was talking about. So you didn't have to bring that up. And then the fact that he reacted to it by mocking it and drinking some more, it was actually quite sad. It seemed immature and unhealed to me. And I really pray that Keith is getting the emotional and mental support that he needs to have a thriving life, because of all the contribution that this man has given to us, poured into us for the culture. He absolutely deserves it. What I learned is I need to continue on my own healing journey, to do the work to build up myself so that I am more confident, more assured, and that I recognize my own self, my being, show up in that fullness and in those abilities. For me, I realized that God provided me with ways of escape, okay? Ways to go toward what I want in this life. And I'm gonna take advantage of those things and not show up shrinking back in a space where I am a legitimate contender, a legend, undisputed icon. I wanna show up in that fullness. My stability emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, financially, all the leads, okay, is something that I bring into the room with me and cannot be provided by an outside source, period. Those are some things I learned from watching him this weekend at the concert. Like this video if any of these lessons were helpful to you, and if you're going to incorporate them on your healing journey. Be well, be encouraged. Here's a pineapple. Bye, y'all.